Assalamualaikum students, welcome to the third lecture of your computer class. I hope that you all are doing really well at your homes and I hope that you are keeping safe. In the previous lecture, if you had listened to the lecture, we discussed about first generations of computer. We had discussed about the limitations and which computers were included and what were the characteristics and who invented them. So today we are going to discuss about second generation computers and third generation computers, and we are going to see as we move forward in the lecture what we are going to. If we have time, we are going to discuss fourth and fifth generation of computers as well. Otherwise, we are going to do that in the next coming lecture. So let's get started. Second generation of computers, they first appeared in 1959 and they were divided from 1959 to 1964. During this period, whatever computers that were made were called second generation computers. They were labeled as second generation of computers. So what were the characteristics of the second generation of computers? These were the characteristics of the second generation of computers. Transistor, they use transistor. You can see this electronic device called transistor on this figure 1.9 of your book. This is a transistor. Transistor basically is a semiconductor device. Semiconductor means semiconductor means it's semiconductor. It's conductor in some conditions. If you are going to provide external support to it, then it can act as a conductor. Otherwise, it acts as an insulator. So semiconductor is that device. So transistors are basically semiconductor devices which are used to amplify electric signal or electric current. As you grow up, you're going to study more about it in detail. They were smaller, faster, cheaper, and more efficient than the first generation computer. So as time progressed, more electronic devices were introduced like transistors and everything, and the size of the computers, it became small, and the efficiency and power and the programming, and the power to run programs, and the size, it became smaller, and efficiency and it started increasing. So they were small. So as miniaturization took place, as we grow further and further, the size of the computer reduced, but the processing speed and everything, it's increased. They were fast, smaller, cheaper, and more efficient than the first generation of computers. They contained all the components that we associate with modern day computers: printers, storage capacity, disk storage, operating systems, etc. So previously, the computers that we used were basically designed for a certain purpose, but as things progressed, a computer started doing multitasking. At a time, the computer started doing a lot of things. So because of that, it also had a printer, storage capacity, disk storage, operating system, etc., as we have in today's computers as well. They relied on punched cards for input. So there were punch cards. They used to use punch cards for input. Punch card, they used to look like something like this, and they were used in the previous time, and they were also called IBM cards, as you can see, there are holes in in these cards. So what they used to do were, they were punched, or they were made a hole into these cards, by hands or with the help of machine, to represent computer data and instruction. So basically they were used to input data into early computers. The programming language COBOL and Fortran came into use at this time. So COBOL basically stands for Common Business Oriented Language. So basically it is used in businesses where it was basically used for a business. It was basically created for business use of people who had business, or in government things, or finance companies. They used to use this language. Then the next one is FORTRAN, Fortran. Basically, this is short for Formula Translator. So it is used. It is the oldest high-level programming language, and it is basically used in applications that require extensive mathematical calculations. So these were one of the very early computer languages that were ever created. IBM 1401 and RCA 501 are examples of second generation of computers. So you can Google them and see the image of these computers that were created, and these are called the second generation of computers. Okay, now the third generation of computers. Generation of computers, they existed between this period 1964 and 1970. And the third generation of computer had the following features. They use ICs, integrated circuits, popularly known as chips, for the first time. Integrated circuits, or ICs, basically it's a small chip or microchip, as you can see. You will see in the other page of the book, I will show you the picture. It's basically a semiconductor, and it consists of various different 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 other components, such as transistors, amplifiers, and other things, and it basically acts as a computer memory. These are defined for different purposes, and it can act as a computer memory or a microprocessor. So it basically is used in computer hardware, and it is used for specific purposes, which you are going to learn in the coming lectures. They were smaller in size as compared to the second generation of computers. So these were the first third generation computer were one of the first computers that ever used ICs. So they were smaller in size as compared to the second generation of computers. So as I've already told you, that as science progressed and as computers, they became more functional, and they became more they provided more functions. The size of the computer eventually became smaller and smaller. Um, Now the third so okay so um, they had greatly enhanced storage capacities that than the second generation computers. They used an operating system that allowed them to run different programs at the same time. So as we have studied the first generation or second generation computers, we saw that they were created for a specific task, for to just do the simple calculations, and later on things added or into them, and eventually they became smaller and they performed a lot of tasks. So these they had a lot of storage capacity as compared to the previous generation computers, and at the same time they used to allow to run different programs at a similar time. These computers use a keyboard to input data and a monitor to display the output. So probably these were the first computers that used the keyboard to input data and a monitor to display the output, as you do it now on your keyboard or a computer, etc. They were much cheaper than the second generation of computers, because the small size became smaller, so they also became cheaper. The IBM 360 series and 370 series are examples of third generation computer. IBM is a company that manufactures computers, and these were the series that were some of the examples of the second generation of computer. Now the fourth generation computer, that is the present day computer, is unique in the following way. So now this is the today, whatever the computers are used, the laptops, everything that is used today is the fourth generation of computer. It started from 1971 to it is still going on. Today the computer that we use is called some of them is called the fourth generation of computers. That is the present computer, unique in the following ways. They use they use microprocessors, a type of very large scale integrated circuits. There are ICs, and then there are microprocessors. ICs are smaller, and they can contain less amount of data, but microprocessors are they're very fast. They're called very large integrated circuit. Means that the ICs are integrated in a larger form. so they can have a huge amount of data in them, and they can do a lot of tasks in them, which contain all the components of a CPU on a single chip. So all the microprocessor is present in almost every computer nowadays, and it is basically it's a CPUs, all the components of a central processing unit are they fitted into a single chip called microprocessors. The very large integrated circuits perform the bulk of processing and control parts of the system. So basically microprocessor is the brain of the computer. It processes everything that goes on inside the computer. Every program that is running in the computer, it is all stored, all the memory, everything that tasks are performing, the computations, the calculations, the programs that are running, everything is done through the microprocessor. The use of microprocessors is in decreased size and increased efficiency. So when we started using microprocessors, the efficiency became increased, the size decreased. They have much greater computing power and storage capacity than the earlier generation computers. So the computing power and the storage capacity is because it is very fast. It processes data much faster than the previous small ICs that were used, or previous devices that were used. So they became fast, and they had a much faster computing power. They can perform calculations at a very small speed. They used improved storage devices that are cheaper than the earlier ones. So as we are progressing and as things are developing, so the storage devices, they have changed. First there were floppy disks, CDs, other sort of DVDs and things. Now we have USBs, we have other forms of storage devices. They can be linked together to storage capacity, space, data, etc. So if there is a network to share storage capacity, space, data, etc. The IBM PC and Apple Macintosh are example of fourth generation computers. So in addition to the desktop or personal computer, nowadays laptops, palm tops and tablets, which can be carried anywhere with ease, have become very common. So these are all the examples of fourth generation of computer. Till the fourth generation computer, the major focus has been on reducing size and improving efficiency. So as um, we are progressing, so what we need to do is we are trying to make computer more smaller and more faster and cheaper. This resulted in smaller yet faster computers. However, the only drawback of these computers is the lack of ability to think, and one is attempting to achieve that is the so-called fifth generation computers. So these are the kind of computers which you use every day nowadays. If I'm using this laptop and I'm going to command something, I'm to input an instruction, and that according to that the microprocessor, it processes that in command, and it gives me an output on the screen. If I'm moving this cursor, then it's doing it at a very fast speed, and the microprocessor, it is, as I'm moving it cannot do it on its own. So I have to give a command to this, so that's how they are going to work. So now let's see what the difference is, that the fifth generation we are now focusing on the computers that have the ability to think, because and that are called fifth generation of computers. The fifth generation of computers are referred to as supercomputers. Supercomputers have very high storage capacities, high speeds, and the ability to carry out highly sophisticated operations. The CRAYCS 300 series is an example of supercomputers. Fifth generation computing also involves artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is a branch of computer science that aims to create computers that can think, behave, and react in the same way as we humans do. So the fifth generation computers are expected to overcome the lack of thinking power in the earlier generation. So basically, artificial intelligence means that you kind of um, provide intelligence to the machines. Just as we humans have intelligence power, we have our brain inside us, so we don't do things on the command of others. Allah has given us a brain. We use this brain to perform certain tasks. So artificial intelligence basically creates robots and machines that can artificially do work on their own without the command of the person. We don't have to operate them uh, like like a laptop or a personal computer, supercomputer. um, they basically work, they're just fed, they're programmed in such a way that they're going to perform the task on their own. There have been so many robots that have been created that work on their own, that work um, on their own. So this is basically artificial intelligence is one of the very developing fields of computer science. Because there so many a lot of work is going on in this field. There are so many branches of this field, and this will be the future of computer science. And basically artificial intelligence is, you artificially put intelligence into machines so that they can perform for certain functions on their own without requiring the human commands or human orders. So these are basically the fifth generation of computers. So whatever we are using right now, these the laptops, computers, these are fourth generation computers, because until unless we're not going to give a command or we're going to press something, it's not going to function on its own. But if you're going to search about this artificial intelligence, then you're going to get more you're going to see a lot of detail as well on internet. um, Let me just give you one example of a fifth generation of computer. This is an example of fourth generation of fifth generation of computer. The fifth generation of computers, it is still in developmental stage, and it is basically, I've already told you, it is based on artificial intelligence. And what is the basic difference between fourth and fifth generation? That the goal of the fifth generation is to develop the device which could respond to natural language input and are capable of learning and self-organization. So these fifth generation of computer, they will use a large amount of integrated circuits, super large, super large scale integrated chips, and they will use in artificial intelligence. So as you grow up and you study more about them, as things develop, as things progress, and more research and more work is done in this field, then you're going to come to know more about it. So now these are the summary of all the generation of computers that we have studied. The five generation of computers. How many generations are there? There are five generation of computers. The first, it started from 1940 to 58, ended at 1958. Then the second, it started from 1959 to 1964. The third, 1964 to 1970. The fourth, 1970 till now today, and fifth, 1989 to it is still going on. Research is going on it. So what were the main components that were used by all these computers? The first generation of computer, they used vacuum tubes. They were large size, they were comparatively small storage and slow speed, high power consumption, large installation area, and difficult to program. The examples are EDSAC and EDVAC. We have studied about them. Then the second generation of computers, the main component that they used was transistors. They were smaller to the first generation computer. They were faster and cheaper than the first generation of computers. They contain all the components of modern day computers as printer, storage capacity, operating system, etc. And the programming languages like COBOL and Fortran came into use. These were the programming language that were used by these generation of computers, and the example is IBM 1401 RCA 501. And the third generation of computers, they were smaller in size as compared to the first and second. Increased storage capacity, different programs could be run together, and they used integrated circuits, ICs. and the examples were IBM 360 series and 370 series. In the fourth generation of computers, they started using microprocessor as we use today. The laptops, the tablets, the notepads, everything that you use today have microprocessors fitted in them. They have a lot of storage capacity. They're creating computing power, creating storage capacity, use better storage devices that cost less and can be linked together or networked together. So modern day PCs, laptops, palm tops, everything. So then the fifth generation of computer, it is going to use artificial intelligence. They're going to be very high speed and they're going to have a huge amount of storage capacity, and they will be able to carry out sophisticated operations on their own and might overcome the lack of thinking power. So they're going to have their own thinking power. You don't need to tell them what to do every time. So CRAY CS300 series are the examples of the fifth generation of computers. So these are the five generation of computers that we have studied and that you need to study, and you need to revise this lecture at home if you're going to have any trouble in any sort of question that you need to ask. Then you can contact the school administration, and I'm going to be there to answer each question of yours. Now you have to revise this at home if you're and you have to if you want to, you can research more about them. You can learn more about them in detail if it interests you. But as you grow up, as you grow older, you're going to learn all about this in detail if you're interested in computer science. So for now, I'm just going to take off, and I'm going to see you in the next lecture. I hope that you all are keeping safe, and take care. Allah Hafiz.